Hey, it's Kirsten Liebelt. How are you? Come on in. It's really good to see you guys tonight. I wanted to jump on live and do just a little bit of chatting about food and insulin resistance. So come on in, you guys, jump on in. All right, so oftentimes I feel like there's a lot of confusion around foods to eat when you're insulin resistant, okay? So let's just make it super, super simple, okay? So my husband and I, we were in a car wash last night, actually. And, you get into the car wash, you pull in, and basically, I don't know if you have these like where you are. I'm in Minnesota, and I'm sure they're all the same. But you get on like a track, and the track just pulls you, and it brings your car into the cleaning area, and it brings you into the scrubbing area, and etc. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? And it kind of pulls you through, and then it kind of shoots you out at the end after you're all rinsed and everything, and it throws you through a dryer, and it's all good, right? That's kind of how this goes. And so while we were doing that last night, it made me think about how we can become so on autopilot in our own lives that we just kind of take in all of the information of the marketing of the products that we eat and everything else. And we don't think necessarily about maybe how it's affecting us. So if you have no idea who I am, my name is Kirsten Liebelt, and my dad died of type 2 diabetes when he was 63 years old. He was super young, right? I was raised Italian, a lot of obesity and type 2 in my family. Like, this is just how it is. And so I was raised to really believe that type 2 was just genetic and that's all you could kind of do about it. Like, I never really went beyond that in my universe, other than the fact that I knew that I had questions in my head, because when my dad died, he had like this Lazy Susan full of meds that he was taking all the time. And there was kind of a little check in my spirit of like, so if he was on all of this modern medication, then why did he die? Like, I always kind of wanted the answer to that. I myself had I was very disconnected from my own health. How do I say? I don't know how else to say that. Meaning, I was gestational diabetic with my first baby. I was hypoglycemic with my second baby. This is in my 20s. Should have gotten a clue, right? Okay. Anyway, so basically then in my 40s, that's when I finally started to deal with it. But when I talk to people a lot about the different foods to eat, I feel like there are a couple of different factors that go into understanding what's happening once you're insulin resistant. And I talk especially to a lot of women who are unable to lose weight. You see, I'm convinced that you slide into your 40s, you're insulin resistant, you can't lose weight, and you just don't know what is going on. Why aren't the old things working anymore? Maybe it was counting points, maybe it was calorie deficit, etc. And so that's a lot about what my Facebook group is about, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. Anyway, so there's this confusion, and I'm convinced that this comes a lot from marketing, right? Because we see things that are, they're diabetic friendly, or they're sugar free, or they're all of these different things. Number one, sometimes we're not using natural sweeteners. This is a little side note. If they're not using natural sweeteners and they're using different things that can actually spike your sugars, that's really frustrating, and you don't even know it. That's a whole nother live that I need to do. But anyway, and so I just find that by making my life as simple as possible, this has been such a key for me. So I'm going to tell you 3 different things that I do in my own universe when it comes to food that just streamlines everything, okay? And I know that I've gone on my own journey, and I've taken my own time to assess the foods that I love so that I can recreate them. And not everybody's going to love the same things that I love, but I feel like when you have basic ingredients, you can turn them into anything that you want to turn them into, right? So, I was thinking about this morning. When I was growing up, I'm in Minneapolis, I remember going to church on Sunday morning, because we were in church today, going into church on Sunday morning, and basically my dad fell asleep in church every single Sunday morning. Every single Sunday morning. And my mom was a pincher. Do you ever know any pinchers? Let me know in the comments. Do you ever have a pincher in your life? Do you know what I'm talking about? my mom would pinch our legs if we fell asleep, or if we were, if I would shake my foot constantly or something, she'd pinch, right? She would pinch. Or like if we were whispering or whatever. Well, that was my mom, right? And she just could not handle the fact that my dad would go to church every Sunday and then he would fall asleep. Crazy, right? Okay, so I never ever in a million years correlated that to the fact that my dad was type 2 diabetic. I always correlated it to the fact that he was a business owner and he worked 6 days a week. And the only reason he took off Sundays was because my mom made him, because she was going to make sure that he was a family man. I mean, do you understand? Like, because he was just such a business owner, traditional business. You had to be there all the time. And so we always just correlated it with that. But do you want to know probably the number one reason why my dad was sleeping in church? It's because he was eating Cheerios and skim milk. Like, when I started piecing this together, that's what really made the difference for me to understand what's going on with insulin resistance. Okay, everybody's on a spectrum. Let me give you the spectrum, then I'm going to give you my 3 things that basically how I view food. The spectrum would be you're barely insulin resistant and you have a little bit of belly fat. And you're like, oh, I just heard that term, insulin resistance. I wonder if that's me. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is my father was very sick with type 2 diabetes that had not been controlled very well. So he was having heart surgeries, he was on kidney dialysis, etc., right? So that's a deeper end of the other spectrum, right? And in between, you have a lot of different levels of metabolic flexibility. So somebody who's not even insulin resistant, they can kind of eat things and it doesn't mess them up. It doesn't whack them out so much. But when you're insulin resistant, your life changes. Okay? So once you're insulin resistant, let's just kind of shift, but it's not shifting into, how do I say, it's not shifting into deprivation. No. It's just shifting ingredients in your pantry and then creating all the foods that you still love, just doing them a little different, okay? Differently. Anyway, all right, so let's get into this then. This is the way that I view different foods. And you can always put in the comments below, what is the food that you love the most, that you feel like you could never live without? I would love to know, because those are all of the things that I've worked on myself to say, oh, okay, I really love that. How can I make that differently? So I'd like to know what everybody else is craving and wanting. For me, the beginning of my journey was learning how to remake the 7-layer bar. That was my journey. Anyway, okay, so the first thing that I do is, did you know that when you're eating meat, cream, and butter, let's just start with those 3 right there. Those virtually have no carbohydrates in them. And they will spike your sugars like about this much. Can you see how tight that is? So if you had a continuous glucose monitor on and you ate a steak and that's all you ate, and you followed your glucose monitor over 2 hours, your glucose would go like this. It would call on very little insulin in your body, and you would not have a crash, and you would not sleep in church because you just had steak. You could even add eggs into that, still not sleeping in church. But why are you sleeping in church if you ate Cheerios and skim milk? Because refined carbohydrates whack you out. They mess you up bad. So skim milk, we were told to go low fat, right? Low fat, that's the answer to all of our ailments. Don't you know? Oh, I'm so Minnesotan. But don't you know, you got to go low fat. Don't pay any attention to the fact that cream has 1 or 0 carbs in it, and skim milk, and that's for like a tablespoon or whatever. I don't remember the serving. And skim milk has 12. Have you ever looked at the container of skim milk? This is why my dad was eating. He would get up in the morning and he would have Cheerios and skim milk, and he would put his like sweet and low, his saccharin on it, which again probably spiked his sugars because bad ingredients do that. Sprinkling his food, right? And then he's sleeping in church 2 hours later. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Now, if you eat eggs and steak or eggs and bacon, not super maple cured sugar bacon, that's another conversation, right? But, you know, something like that. I froze, just sorry about that. Um, you're not going to sleep. You're not going to be crashing. So I'm in my 40s, I'm raising my kids, I'm totally crashing all the time because I'm eating foods that are constantly spiking my sugars, constantly calling on insulin. And then once you become insulin resistant, your insulin just keeps on going up because your body thinks it has to produce more. I must not be doing a good enough job. We got to get more in there. But your cell can't take it in. Your cell has said no. So now you have high insulin. You end up then eventually over time, and it can be a long time, high blood sugars, etc. Okay. So the second thing would be, so focusing on meat and eggs is number one. I'm looking for protein at every single meal. Every single meal. And meat and eggs will not spike your sugars. Now I understand there's protein in a lot of foods, but you're looking for the combo. The combo is protein that doesn't spike your sugar, not protein that is carbohydrates. Okay? Because you're insulin resistant. If you're listening to me, if you're chatting with me right now, you're probably insulin resistant, or you think you are, or you're wondering about it, right? So we are taking a different path. We're not going to eat a bunch of, you know, it doesn't matter. Forget all the marketing, you guys. It can say it's whole grain, it's heart healthy, it's freaking amazing. It's going to like cure all sorts of ailments in your body. But if it's spiking your sugars over and over again, and you are insulin resistant, that's not helpful for you. Number one, all we have to do is talk about your weight. Because if you're having a hard time losing weight, that's the deal. How do you get 138 grams of protein a day? That's what you need for keto. Yeah. Well, you become a very mindful, don't you? So basically, okay, that's a great question. And I'll answer that really quickly. Number one, I am going to recommend, if you are not in my Facebook group, jump into my Facebook group because that's where I can talk about food a lot, right? So you can go to myfirstandlastname.com, kirstenliebelt.com. There is a, it's not funny, it gives me that thumbs up. It's so funny on Instagram. You can go there and you can, there's a Facebook blue button. Jump into the Facebook group because I can show recipes, I can give food, okay? And that is, I'm doing another challenge. I do one challenge every single month, 5-day challenge, and it's starting on Monday, February 5th. Okay, and I'll do recipes in there too. But secondly, one of the tricks is getting protein into your recipes. So for instance, I make a sugar-free chocolate pudding. You can also see that on kirstenliebelt.com. I make a sugar-free chocolate pudding recipe that's homemade, and it's made with egg whites. This comes from Maria Emmerich. So you can really boost your protein in different ways like that. I make Maria Emmerich bread. That's made with egg whites. Okay, so there are ways that you can actually get your life moving in the right direction pretty easily. But that's a really good question. Thanks for asking. So first of all, protein. And when I think of protein, I'm not thinking whole grains, and I'm not thinking chia and flax. And no. I'm thinking meat and eggs. Okay, that's number one. And there's a whole nother conversation with that, what I just said, like chia and flax. That's a whole nother Maria Emmerich conversation. Number two, good fats. What are good fats? They are not, let me tell you what they're not. They are not vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil. What am I missing? I'm probably missing. It's not the seed oils. That is actually really bad for, so bad for your liver. It is so bad for diabetes. It is literally one of the drivers of insulin resistance. Maria Emmerich would say even more so than sugar in our country. That's a little startling. So the good oils, olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, lard, all of the things that like my grandma ate and had no dementia, zero dementia, because she didn't have insulin resistance of her brain. Type 3 diabetes, okay? She didn't have that. She was playing Scrabble until she died. And she grew up on a farm and ate butter, et cetera, and without all the processed foods, right? Because she was 97 and she died in 96. So that should tell you that it wasn't, the foods weren't so bad back then. Somebody else said something about low fat, low fat, the 80s messed us up bad. It messed us up so bad, you guys. Just think about it. All of these ideas that they have thrown our way. Oh, you should do, I just, don't even get me started. Eating fake food, all of the fake margarines and the fake plant everything. Don't do it, you guys. God gave us the best food. Number 3, instead of thinking in terms of, oh, I have to really figure out all of the fruits. I have to figure out all of the vegetables. Make it super easy on yourself, okay? Like, let's be super streamlined. For fruit, choose berries. For vegetables, choose green. Make your life that easy, that streamlined. So think meat and eggs, really good oils and fats, berries and greens, okay? And give that to yourself as a structure. Now, do I add in nuts and seeds and stuff? Yes, I do. But this is the deal. When you're in a weight loss mode, that can mess you up. Even dairy in general can mess you up. So there's a spectrum for everything, and I get it. And I'm giving you such a brief overview. This is not a full spectrum of anything, right? So if you're healing from an autoimmune condition, you would tweak things differently. If you are really, really uncontrolled type 2, you're going to tweak things differently, right? Different ingredients are going to do different things in your body. But that is a really good framework for anybody who's like, I just don't even know where to start. Like, my weight is out of control. I was just diagnosed with insulin resistance. I was told I'm pre-diabetic. They're all kind of interchangeable. I'm on the verge of this. I'm on the verge of that. Or they put me on meds last week and I hate the side effects. Or I could give you a million scenarios of conversations that I have every single day in my DMs from people who are on meds and they want off meds. They're told to get on meds. They don't want to get on meds. They're on, Ozempic or Wegovy, and they don't want to be on it anymore because they can't stand the side effects and blah, 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 blah. It's just this, right? Because this is where we are in our nation. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I thought, you know what, let's just simplify life as much as we can. And I know that is super, super easy, but I'm going to tell you like what I'm going to do tonight before I jump off. One of the things that I'm going to do tonight, and then again, I'm able to do a lot more food in the group. Hold on. So you just clean for a month and you caved at a party yesterday. Julie, I so hear you. And you had 2 cookies and chicken enchiladas. Yum. I'm not going to lie. That sounds amazing. You know what? And so I'm going to just tell you right now, the entire reason why I started with supplementation in my 40s is because I did not think that this Italian girl could ever change out her food. That is a true story. I was raised to celebrate with food and to mourn with food. And if you understand that, let me know in the comments, for real. Like, if this is your culture too, I resonate a lot with Hispanic people because they understand, because food is like family. Food is the culture, right? So I started with supplementation as a path of least resistance. I think it's extraordinarily ironic that now I teach what I teach when it comes to helping people understand their food and understanding why supplements work inside of your body to function at a higher level and actually begin to turn the ship of insulin resistance to insulin sensitivity. Super ironic that this is my life right now. But I just can't even help myself to tell people, right? So I'll tell you what I did, just because I want you to do this without any shame. But if you do jump into the Facebook group, at the very top of the Facebook group, there's a masterclass. I did it in December. It's an hour long. It'll explain both the supplements and the food, okay? You can jump in there. Again, it's Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. You can put a comment on Facebook and YouTube, and I can give you that. I can get you the link, or you can go to KirstenLiebelt.com and there's a Facebook blue button there. You can jump in. Top of the group, masterclass. Okay, that'll help. But what I ended up doing was this. So I start with supplementation, and then in my early 50s, I noticed that because my cycle had stopped, fat pockets were showing up around my body, and I was not very excited about that because that's what happens, right? Your hormones change. So therefore your fat balances your arms and your back fat and inside of your knees, etc. And I knew that I had to change my foods. I knew that I had to change what got me into the pickle to begin with. I did it more for vanity than anything. However, I'm glad I did, because, you know, I was headed towards the type 2 trajectory. I'm the only one in my family who ended up not being type 2, but I was headed the same direction. So I actually took it one step at a time for myself. And I chose to use my 50s. I just turned 59 yesterday, but I chose to take my 50s and really actually ask myself some questions like, what are the foods that I actually really love? What am I looking to trade out? What is it that, if I'm going to a social event that I really want to cave into, you just said cookies and enchiladas. What are those triggers, right? That you feel like in that moment, you just don't have any strength. And I would start to find one recipe at a time, and I would trade out that one recipe at a time, one ingredient at a time. And pretty soon my pantry looked different. But at the same time, and I'm still using the exact same supplements that I did back then, I actually took a carb blocker, and I would have carb blockers in my pockets all the time. Because when you can stop the sugar spike, it hits a ceiling when you sit down to eat, then you're not spiking your sugars high fast, and you're not calling on as much insulin. You're still going to call on insulin because every time you eat, you're calling on insulin. But there's a difference between calling on insulin here and calling on insulin here. Okay? So I had carb blocker in my pockets for years and years and years. And I'll talk to anybody about that too, along with the other supplements. But my point being, have grace for yourself. You have to have grace, right? You have to do things without shame, because you can't heal a body in shame. That's my belief. I don't know that that's scientifically proven, but that is my belief. Okay. So anyway, your trigger was a group of friends eating in front of you. Julie, yes. That's all I'm going to say. Yes. And I had to think about that all the time. Like, I'm going to go to somebody's house, and that's why my pockets had carb blocker in them. Because again, I wasn't going to do it with shame. I was going to allow myself the process and say, no shame. I'm prepared. I thought ahead. I have carb blocker in my pockets. And then I would just kind of whatever. And pretty soon, now I don't use them at all, because I've traded everything out. And so now my fridge is prepared. My shopping is completely different. My pantry is completely different. And I go through that in the group also during the 5-day challenge. I take you into my pantry and my fridge. Like, let's show you guys, simple things. But social events are a big deal. And now we're done with Christmas. Now we're done with the holidays, and we want to get back on track so bad. We want to do this so badly, but yet we just feel like, you guys, I went to Costco today, and the Cadbury mini eggs are out. Like, are you kidding me? Literally, we go from sugar season to sugar season to sugar season. This is crazy pants, right? This makes it really hard. Julie, yes. Well, that's probably really smart. Put that on your next order, Julie. And if you ever need anything, my DMs are always open. I can answer questions about that. So, you're Italian, Teresa. Yep. Pool table. Yes. Top full of food for gatherings. That's hysterical. Yes. We had a pool table in our basement, but we did not put that full of food. So that's really funny though. That's really funny. So anyway, but I wanted to come and just give you some of that information, some of those tips, so that you can just focus on being very, very streamlined. So number one, when you're thinking about protein, don't be confused by marketing, and think about all of the protein that's in all of the complex carbohydrates, blah, 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 blah. You're supposed to eat in balance. You're supposed to, you know what? If you're spiking your sugars, and it's one of the reasons why you can't lose weight, that doesn't work anymore. If you are trying to get your own life, because I'm not a doctor, so your own assessment, your own life, you're trying to get off meds, on your own, spiking your sugars all the time isn't helping, okay? So meat and eggs in general for protein, okay? And beef is like, the amino acid profile in beef is almost identical to your muscles. It's really good. Then good fats, right? Because we want our hormones to be happy, and we want our bellies to be full. We want to feel satiated. So butter, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, I didn't mention that before, lard, like those things that really satiate us, okay? And then the last thing is when you're thinking about vegetables, think about greens, very, very low sugar spiking, and then think about berries. And of course, your greens and your berries, you know what? I know we can't go organic on everything all the time. I get it. I know that I don't. It's always a goal, right? We're always a goal. But when it comes to your greens and your berries, really shoot for organic. And if that's challenging, try to find organic frozen, okay? Because that's one tip that can really help you with that. So anyway, if you need anything about the supplementation, you probably heard me talk before about the trio. Those are the 3 supplements that have the 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. I have oodles of testimonies now, just oodles. I should come on and just do a testimonial live just to read testimonies. So if you're looking to have help with your sugars, your sugar cravings, your hunger, like your appetite, etc., then that's what I'm talking about. Okay, DM me, put trio in the comments if you're on Facebook. In Instagram, it won't stay anymore, but on Facebook and YouTube, you can put trio and I'll get you information. Or there's the Facebook group. And either way, just know that I'm always available to answer questions. Like, people are having success and moving forward. And that can be you too. It doesn't have to always be somebody else. And this doesn't have to be this trippy mind game that you do with yourself for the entirety of 2024. This can be the year that you actually get your sugars under your control, and then you can actually watch the weight begin to like diminish. And that is the best feeling ever. And that last thing I'll say is that in my 50s, because of this, I have gone from a 2X down to a large. In my 50s, after I stopped my cycle. That's not supposed to happen, right? That's not usually how it happens because hormones are stinky. But insulin is a hormone, so don't forget that, okay? So if I don't see you in the group, I hope to see you the next time I go live, and I look forward to it. And you have a super, oh, hold on, Julia's question. What's the idea to wreck our food and we have to be the food scientists? Yes, we do, Julie. We have to be the food scientists. Don't forget that. All right, you guys have a super blessed night. And it was really nice to have you jump on. See you soon.